take us back to your childhood, like your earliest memories of being around the tracks, your earliest memories of being around, what eventually became your career. What are the first memories you have of just being around the sport?
Probably at Charlotte Motor Speedway, I was at a qualifying session for one of the Charlotte races, one of the Cup races, and we were watching the cars qualifying. That was probably 1982 or 83. I was about 7 years old. My parents separated, and I lived with my mom till 1981, and our house burnt down. We was in this small house in Kannapolis and woke up one morning and the kitchen was on fire. And so she was broke and had to give custody of me and my sister to my dad. And so now I'm over at my dad. We never saw Dad. I remember maybe staying at his house one weekend. So I didn't really know him. It was really weird. But
and you're how old at this point?
6.
Okay.
And so next thing I know, I'm in Dad's garage on the lake, going through my toy box, making sure all my toys made it, right? All the other stuff all our stuff, mine and Kelly's stuff's in the garage. But and we started going to the racetrack. Now I'm at a racetrack. Now I'm like, this is cool. This is fun. Racing's amazing. Yeah. And instantly you're drug into that world and loving it, loving everything about it.
And Kyle, for you, of course, everyone's aware of you and your brother and your brother Kurt. Growing up in Las Vegas, your father Tom was kind of a short track legend, if I have that right, in his own right. Kind of grew up around the garage, grew up around the game. So, like, what do you remember? Like, when did you first feel like driving and racing? And you started way younger than Dale, right? Dale, you started as a teenager.
12 when I ran.
Okay, so
like
not
my
quite.
First competitive.
And how old were you?
13, so
okay,
pretty close.
Pretty close.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. My dad was a really good amateur racer, in Las Vegas, and that's where he kind of made his racing career. Never went back east in order to make it professional or anything. So as he was racing through the ranks and stuff, I remember the earliest days I can remember, probably 5, 6 years old, something being at the racetrack. But the legend is I was there at 2 weeks old, at the racetrack for my dad's racing and stuff. But just been around it the whole time, all the time. And, my dad always had cars in the garage, whether it was a 1932 Ford Coupe that we were always kind of working on and getting ready and building up. And then, his hobby stocks and then his late models and things like that. But once Kurt was old enough to start racing, he sold his big car stuff and bought 2 little cars. They're Legends cars, dwarf cars, kind of the same things. And so those 2 could race. Now, I'm 6.5 years younger than Kurt, so as Tom and Kurt were racing, then I was just kind of working on the cars and all that sort of stuff, always in the garage, always being a part of it. Actually, I would video a lot of the races as well, too, so we could go back home and rewatch and stuff like that. But then once I was old enough, 13, I finally got my shot behind the wheel. And as you asked, like, growing up, being there, like, I always envisioned myself driving, wanting to drive. Like, I really had that itch to drive. But you never know if you're really going to be it in order to be able to make it. So we just did it as a hobby, really, and then it kind of formulated and turned into something more.
And then how much, I'm always curious to this, like, how much is the experience at the young, you're talking 12, 13 years old and younger, like, how much is, like, living in Las Vegas, how different or similar maybe is that race experience for a young kid in those days to living in Kannapolis or in the, in the Charlotte area? Like, is it similar opportunities or what you're doing in Vegas and what you're doing growing up in Carolina? Like, is it the same? Is it different?
I think it's a lot different. I mean, your dad obviously came from the local tracks, right? And then made his way up and became one of the top guys of our sport, where my dad never really went farther beyond just racing at the local level.
Could your father have, like, did guys from his local, you call them local tracks, like, did any of them make it on, or was it more common down here in the South?
More common here in the South.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, there's guys from the West Coast that have made it. I mean, Hornaday made it, Harvick's made it, Jimmy Larson, myself, my brother, but I think the biggest thing, I asked my dad that one time, I was like, how come you never, like, thought about it and moved back east in order to go do it? And he was like, I didn't have any money.
Right.
Like, there was and I was like, well, you hear the stories of, like, Richard and Dale and all those guys, and, like, they didn't have any money. They just, what they did, they lived, they did, like, why didn't we do that? And he was like, no, I think we were on an even more different level than what they were. So